My name is Roy Barron. I'm 31, and 3 months ago, I learned a truth that still tightens my chest when I think about it. You can love someone for years, build a life with them, plan a future so real you can almost touch it, and still not realize you've already been replaced. People love stories like this. They watch them to feel better about their own relationships, to say, at least that's not me. But this wasn't entertainment. This was my real life. And it all ended the night my boyfriend looked me straight in the eyes and said, with absolute certainty, "You'll never be half the woman my ex was." When he said it, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Something inside me just shut off, like a breaker flipping in a quiet room. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how we got there. I'd been with Jackson Hale for 4 years. He was 29, a paralegal at a mid-sized corporate firm, sharp when he wanted to be, charming when it suited him. We met in 2019 at a friend's backyard cookout. He was new to the city, nervous in that polished but lost way. I wasn't. By then, I'd already built my life from the ground up. I own a small commercial electrical company. Not a hobby, not a side hustle, a real operation. 5 full-time guys on payroll, 3 trucks with my company logo on the doors, long-term contracts lined up months in advance. I didn't inherit anything. No money, no safety net. My father was an electrician. He taught me the trade when I was 16. Real work, not Instagram hustle nonsense. I spent my teenage years crawling through boiling attics, pulling wire while my friends were at the beach. Trade school after high school, journeyman license at 21, master electrician at 25. I lived in a depressing studio apartment, eating ramen and saving every dollar until I could afford my first truck and open my own shop at 27. I built everything with my hands, and I was proud of it. Jackson said that was what he loved about me. At that cookout, he laughed easily, asked real questions, didn't flinch when my phone rang with a work call. By the end of the night, he asked for my number like he was afraid someone else might beat him to it. And for a long time, it worked. For 3 years, we were solid, quiet, steady, safe. Jackson moved into my house after year 2. We split bills fairly, talked about marriage in that half-joking way people do when they're already imagining it. He'd say things like, "When we have kids, you'll be the parent who fixes everything," or, "I can't wait to be Mr. Barron." Sounds powerful. I was saving for a ring. I'd even picked it out. Platinum band, princess cut diamond, $8,000. I remember standing in the jewelry store, staring at it under the lights, thinking this is the reward for all those years of grinding. I thought Jackson was worth it. Then his ex came back into our lives. Her name was Elliot Reeves. Yes, Elliot. She was 33, corporate finance, the kind of woman who didn't walk into a room so much as arrive. Perfect posture, tailored suits, BMW 7 Series, a gym membership that probably cost more than my first apartment. Jackson dated her for 2 years before me, from the time he was 23 to 25. According to him, she'd been too focused on her career, emotionally unavailable, always canceling dates for meetings, making him feel like an accessory to her success. He told me he wanted something real. He said I was real. So when his firm started working with Elliot's company on a major merger last November, I told myself it was fine. Work is work. Adults can be adults. History doesn't have to repeat itself. That's what mature people believe. At first, it looked harmless. Jackson would come home and mention her casually. Elliot thinks this approach makes more sense. Elliot's team wants another revision. Elliot is, honestly, she's brilliant. I nodded, smiled, asked questions. But slowly something changed. He stopped saying my coworker and started saying Elliot. Not her last name, not she. Just Elliot. Like she lived with us. And the way he said her name wasn't neutral. It was warm. He used to come home excited to tell me about us, about plans, about stupid jokes, about nothing at all. Now he came home energized only when he talked about her. Then came the late nights. Jackson had always worked hard. I respected that. Once or twice a month, he'd stay late for something urgent. But starting in January, it became constant. 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Multiple nights a week. Always meetings with Elliot's team. He'd come home smelling like expensive cologne. Not mine. I wear whatever's cheapest at Target. I'm not trying to impress anyone at Home Depot. The scent clung to his clothes like a lie. Worse than that was his energy. Before, late nights left him exhausted. Now he came home wired, laughing, talking fast, alive. He hadn't sounded alive with me in months. He stopped initiating intimacy, stopped asking about my day, stopped looking at me like I was home. Living with him felt like sharing space with someone who had already left. The first time I tried to talk about it was Valentine's week. Bad timing, I know. We were on the couch, me sitting there, him glued to his phone, and I finally asked the question that had been clawing at my chest. Is something going on between you and Elliot? He reacted like I'd accused him of a crime. Oh my God, Roy, he snapped. You're so insecure. Insecure? I repeated. I'm asking because you don't talk to me anymore. We work together, he said sharply. That's it. Not everything is about you feeling threatened by successful women. Successful women. Not coworkers, not exes. Successful women. As if my success didn't count, because my hands were rough and my boots were dirty. I stayed calm, told him I wasn't trying to fight, that I felt us drifting, that we hadn't had a real conversation in weeks. He rolled his eyes. Actually rolled them. Then he grabbed a blanket and said he was sleeping in the guest room. During Valentine's week, like I was the problem. I sat on that couch until 2 a.m, staring at a dark TV, drinking a beer I couldn't taste, wondering how a relationship could die while both people were still breathing. The next day, I told my best friend Jade everything. She listened quietly, then said, Roy, he's already gone. You're just the last one to know. I wanted to argue. But deep down, I knew she was right. Because once someone starts treating another person like a sunrise, you can't pretend you're still the light. The next 2 months proved it. Jackson started comparing me to Elliot openly. Elliot closed a $4 million deal. Elliot got promoted to VP. Elliot bought a penthouse downtown. I'd tell him I landed a hospital expansion contract worth $200,000, huge for my company, and he'd say, That's nice. That's nice. Then pivot straight back to her. I tried planning date nights. He canceled. I surprised him with lunch at work. He rushed me out. I buried myself in my business, expanded my crew, took on more contracts. By spring, I was clearing close to $200,000 a year. I was building a future, and my boyfriend treated me like background noise. Even my crew noticed. My lead guy, Tommy, pulled me aside one day and asked if I was okay. I laughed it off. He didn't. And I still didn't know I was walking straight toward the moment that would end everything. Because the breaking point didn't come with proof of cheating. It came on a quiet Friday night in late April when I decided, stupidly, to try one last time. I made reservations at Morello's, the Italian place where Jackson and I had our first real date. I took the afternoon off, showered, bought flowers, practiced what I'd say in my head. We can fix this. We can find each other again. I came home early and walked straight into my funeral. Jackson was on a video call, alone in our bedroom, laptop on the bed. On the screen, Elliot Reeves, smiling like she owned the moment. Jackson was laughing, touching his hair the way he used to when he flirted with me. Wearing the shirt I'd bought him for Valentine's Day, the one he claimed he hated. The camera angle was perfect. I stood there just long enough to feel my body go cold. Then I turned around and walked away. Because I already knew. This wasn't a conversation anymore. It was the end. I didn't confront Jackson right away. That's the part people don't understand when they hear this story later. They ask, why didn't you blow up? Why didn't you scream? Because sometimes the hurt is so sharp, your body goes quiet just to survive it. I walked past the bedroom like I hadn't seen anything. Took a shower in the guest bathroom. Let the water run hot enough to fog the mirror, like maybe I could steam the image of him and Elliot out of my head. I dressed slowly. Put on the outfit I'd planned for dinner, the one that made me feel like myself again. Not a contractor, not a boss, just a woman trying to save something that mattered. When I walked into the living room, Jackson was already there, sitting stiffly on his couch, arms crossed, jaw tight, ready for a fight. What? He snapped, before I even opened my mouth. I held up the flowers. They felt ridiculous now, heavy, out of place. Are we still going to dinner? I asked. He stared at me like I was speaking another language. I'm not going anywhere with you, he said. Not when you're clearly in a mood about me talking to a colleague. A colleague. I set the flowers down on the counter as carefully as if they might break. Right, I said, a colleague. I grabbed my keys. I'm heading out. That's when he followed me, irritation sharp in his voice. Where are you going? I turned back, looked at him, the man I'd lived with, loved, planned a future with, and said the words he'd thrown at me weeks earlier. Not everything is about you. Then I walked out. I went to Morello's alone, sat at a table for two while couples around me laughed, shared plates, leaned in close. The waiter kept glancing at the empty chair across from me, clearly debating whether to ask. Finally, he did. Is your date joining you tonight? No, I said, he's not. He nodded slowly. Brought me a glass of wine I didn't order, comped dessert I didn't touch. I stared at the candle on the table and realized something terrifying. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I just felt done. After dinner, I went to Jade's place with a six-pack and a bottle of bourbon. Told her everything. The late nights, the comparisons, the video call. She listened, jaw tight, eyes dark. Roy, she said finally, he's already checked out. You know that, right? I know, I admitted. So what are you going to do? That was the question I'd been avoiding. Part of me wanted to fight for the relationship. 4 years isn't nothing. We had good memories, real ones. But another part of me, the part that built a business from nothing, knew when to stop pouring effort into something that was already bankrupt. I got home around midnight. Jackson was still awake, sitting in the living room like he was waiting for a teenager to come home past curfew. Where the hell were you? He demanded. With Jade, I said, talking. You just left, he snapped. Didn't even bother to text me. The irony almost made me laugh. You mean like you text me when you're working late with Elliot? His face flushed red. Oh my God, we're really doing this again? I am so sick of your insecurity. I'm not insecure, I said calmly. I'm just not stupid. His eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means I see what's happening, I said. You're falling for your ex again, or maybe you never stopped, and I'm just the safe backup plan. That's when he lost it. He started ranting about pressure, about expectations, about how demanding his job was. Then he said the thing I'll never forget. You wouldn't understand, he snapped. You just wire buildings all day. Just wire buildings. Like my career was a joke. Like the years of sweat, the people I employed, the life I built meant nothing because I didn't wear a suit. I stayed calm. Told him maybe he was right. Maybe he would be better off with someone who understood his world. Someone like Elliot. That's when he looked at me, really looked at me, and delivered the final blow. You'll never be half the woman she is, he said. She's ambitious, she's driven, she's going places. And you're just comfortable. You've peaked, Roy, he added. This is it for you. The room went silent. And in that silence, something in me died. Not the hurt, the hope. I looked at him and felt absolutely nothing. No, I said quietly. You're right. That seemed to throw him. I'll never be Elliot, I continued. So go be with her. He backpedaled immediately. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did, I said. And that's fine, but I'm not going to be your backup plan. I told him to pack his things. He laughed at first, then realized I wasn't joking. This is my house, I said. Your name isn't on the deed. You have until Sunday. He panicked, cried, apologized, said he loved me. I slept in the guest room with the door locked. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. The next morning, Jade showed up with new locks and a grin. Heard you finally grew a spine, she said. Jackson spiraled while we changed the locks. By Sunday afternoon, he was gone. 4 years, reduced to boxes in the driveway. And as I watched him leave, I felt one thing. Relief. The days after Jackson moved out were loud in the quietest way. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts from his friends, calls from numbers I didn't recognize, voicemails that started calm and ended angry. I was heartless, I was dramatic, I had blindsided him. His sister left a 5-minute voicemail where she didn't take a single breath, telling me I'd ruined his life over one argument. I deleted it halfway through. The only message I answered came from his dad. I'm sorry, Roy, you deserve better. That one stuck. Jackson went straight to social media. Long posts about choosing peace and outgrowing relationships. Carefully vague. Perfectly curated. He didn't mention the months of comparisons. Didn't mention Elliot. Definitely didn't mention telling me I'd peaked. A few mutual friends reached out, asking what really happened. I didn't argue. I sent screenshots. The conversation where he called me insecure. The messages where he praised Elliot while dismissing me. The line where he told me I'd never be half the woman she was. The questions stopped after that. 2 weeks later, Jade sent me a screenshot. Jackson had updated his relationship status. In a relationship with Elliot Reeves. There they were, smiling at sunset on some rooftop bar downtown, his arm around her like a prize he'd finally reclaimed. The caption read something like, "Finding my way back to real success." I laughed. Then I blocked him. Everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, his number. Gone. Guess he didn't waste any time, Jade said when I called her. Guess not, I replied. Good for them. And I meant it, because the second he said I'd never be half the woman she was, something in me detached permanently. I threw myself into my life. Work got bigger, better. I landed 2 new commercial contracts, one for an office renovation that would keep my crew busy for 6 months straight. I started going to the gym again. Dropped 15 pounds of stress and resentment. Picked up my guitar after years of letting it collect dust. I slept without anxiety, ate without knots in my stomach. Peace is addictive once you get a taste of it. By June, I met Ethan Brooks. He was 32, a project manager for one of the developers I worked with. Divorced, calm, self-sufficient. We met on a job site. He complimented the quality of our work, instead of asking how fast we could finish it. That alone caught my attention. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into easy laughter. No comparisons, no ego games. He liked that I ran my own company. Thought it was impressive, not threatening. Novel concept. Life was good. Then, late one Tuesday night, my phone started blowing up. Missed calls, texts piling up. They were from Mara, Jackson's sister. Please answer. It's an emergency. Roy, she needs you. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something about the panic in the messages felt different. I excused myself from Ethan's place, stepped into his kitchen, and called her back. She answered sobbing. Oh, thank God, she's in the hospital. My stomach dropped. What happened? She was attacked, Mara cried, outside Jackson's building. My chest went cold. Is she okay? Physically, yes, bruises, scrapes, but she hesitated. Jackson just stood there. What do you mean? He didn't help her, didn't yell, didn't chase the guy, didn't even call the police. A stranger did. I sat down hard on a stool. What hospital? She told me. Ethan didn't ask questions, just nodded. Go, he said. I'll be here. That alone told me everything I needed to know about the kind of man he was. I drove to the hospital on autopilot, not because I loved Elliot, not because I missed Jackson, because nobody deserves to be attacked and abandoned. When I got there, Mara hugged me like she'd been holding her breath for hours. She keeps asking for you, she whispered. Where's Jackson? I asked. Her face twisted. He left, said he had an early meeting. Of course he did. Elliot was in an ER room, bandage on her cheek, wrist wrapped. She looked small, shaken. Nothing like the polished woman who'd replaced me. When she saw me, she started crying. I can't believe you came, she whispered. I stayed near the door. I'm sorry this happened to you, I said. Nobody deserves it. She told me everything. The mugger, the shove, screaming for help. Jackson standing frozen. He said he didn't want to escalate, she sobbed. Something about liability. I felt sick. What kind of person hides behind policy while someone they love is hurt? When she asked if I could stay until she was discharged, I said yes. Not because I owed her. Because I'm not cruel. She couldn't go back to the penthouse that night. So I drove her to my place. One night, I said firmly. That's it. She slept on my couch. I slept in my bed. And I knew, deep down, that this wasn't over yet. Because kindness always gets misunderstood by people who mistake it for weakness. I woke up the next morning to the sound of my coffee maker. For half a second, I panicked. Muscle memory reaching for a life that didn't exist anymore. Then I remembered. Jackson was gone. Elliot was on my couch. And my life was mine again. I walked into the kitchen around 8 and found her standing there in socks and one of my oversized sweaters. The same one Jackson used to steal and pretend he didn't like. Morning, she said softly, like she was afraid I'd change my mind and throw her out. You didn't have to make coffee, I said. I know, I just wanted to do something. She gestured to the eggs on the stove. I hope that's okay. It's fine, I said, keeping my distance. We ate in silence. Finally, she took a shaky breath. I need to say something. I didn't respond, just waited. I was horrible to you, she said. Not just at the end, for months. I convinced myself that what Jackson represented, status, money, that world, was what mattered. That you weren't enough because you weren't him. I met her eyes. You told him I'd never be half the woman you were, I said quietly. She flinched. I know, she whispered, and hearing myself say it now, God, I don't know how you didn't hate me. I don't hate you, I said, but that doesn't mean I forgive everything. She nodded. Last night showed me the truth, she continued. Jackson has everything I thought mattered, and when it counted, he did nothing. I didn't argue, because she was right. She asked if there was any chance I'd take Jackson back. No, I said immediately. I'm seeing someone, and even if I weren't, there's no coming back from what he said. She cried, quietly. Later that afternoon, she went to get her things from Jackson's place. She came back 3 hours later, shattered. He packed everything, she sobbed, left it with the doorman, changed the locks. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt clarity. Over the next few days, she stayed with me while she figured out where to go. We talked about mistakes, illusions, and how people confuse success with character. On day 4, her friend picked her up. Before leaving, she looked at me and said, You were the better woman. I see that now. I nodded. I hope you never forget it. Months later, she stopped by my job site. Therapy, new apartment, growth. I wished her well. Jackson, he got engaged to someone younger. Me? I moved in with Ethan, built something real, quiet, honest. Because love doesn't show up when it's convenient. It shows up when it's hard. And that's how I knew I'd won, without ever taking him back.